Hi everyone. So we got Roger here from Realtor.com, and he's going to give us some valuable training on how to make some more money.
I'm going to try. Well, welcome. As you mentioned, my name is Roger Stewart, and I'm with Realtor.com. I'm the Director of Customer Education. So I and my team get to travel all over the place and put on training like this to hopefully help you get the most out of, in this case, OpCity or Ready Connect. You're going to hear it called both because we're slowly trying to change the name. So you'll hear it called both Ready Connect and OpCity. Just depends on which one you're used to. I'm actually from Florida, and Northeast Florida, just north of Jacksonville. And so I came in to do some training, and it should only take us about 3 or 4 hours. So sit back and relax. We got cookies back there. We got all the things you need for your blood sugar to keep you wide awake for about an hour or so. No, actually, we'll get done probably, depending on questions, roughly maybe an hour, hour and a half. It shouldn't take too long. What we're going to do is go through some basic information on, first, we're going to take a look at the online lead landscape, talk a little bit about online leads. If you're not familiar with them, there's some things you absolutely need to kind of understand about how online leads work. If you are familiar with them, then I won't be telling you anything new. But dealing with the general public and what we get through online leads and through lead channels, we actually do our best to keep most of it out of your inbox, but it happens. We're going to talk a little bit about what the customer kind of goes through from their perspective. So when you get that call and you actually start connecting with them and talking to them, you'll kind of already know at least probably their main pain points, and if you can address those before they have to bring them to you, then that just puts you light years ahead against your competition out there. And regardless of where your leads come from, you're going to have competition out there. So we're also going to spend part of the time talking about how to get from that first phone call in front of them and get them to that first meeting and making sure that you stay connected with them and that they convert with you rather than going to the next person that calls. So we're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. And we also got some key features and some online resources that we'll wrap up with. All right, so let's talk about this whole home search reality stuff. So most of the stats that are up here are probably not going to be surprising. We know that 41% of all home buyers usually start their search online. I would guess that it's probably higher than that now. That stat is actually 2021. That's NAR's profile of home buyers and sellers. That's probably gone up. Pretty sure it has. But we know pretty much anything nowadays. If there's something you're looking for, there's something you're looking to buy or go do, we're online researching. If it's not on our phones, it's on the computers at home, it's on our tablets, wherever it is, we're going to go get that information ahead of time. Typically, they'll spend about 2 weeks doing this research before they get to a point of reaching out to an agent for help, assuming they're getting past that looky-loo phase. They've decided they're actually going to take action. So they'll still spend, on average, about 2 weeks before they do that. We know that 51% of recent buyers actually found their home through the internet, regardless of whether they work with an agent or not. Of course, that's gone up considerably over the last 10 years or so. Now, when we kind of go back and look at what's happened with competition for these leads, that has also kind of gone through the roof. If we go all the way back to about 2011, annual home sales were about 4.8 million, which is pretty close to what they're projected to be, what they were last year and what they're kind of projecting it to be this year. And we saw about 4.5 million real estate leads being generated through all the different systems that were out there. Fast forward that to, where are we at, 2022? About 6.9 million homes were sold that year. 238 million leads were generated. So as you can see, we've gone up exponentially on the number of leads that are being generated, but we're still only closing between 5 and 6 million homes a year. So you've got all these people out there looking, and they've got all these different channels for them to reach out and ask for help. Now, that's not 238 million people raising their hands saying, I want somebody to call me. That's probably, we gauge somewhere between, this was a busy year before everything kind of slowed down a little bit. And we gauge it's probably somewhere between 20 and 25 million people, which tells you how many leads individuals are generating. A lot of times they don't even know that they're doing it. So in addition to portals like us and some of those other guys out there that have real estate where people are actually looking for homes saying, hey, I like this house, I want to get some more information on it. You've got lending companies. When people go look for mortgages, or title companies, escrow companies, when people are out looking for that, a lot of times they'll have a form somewhere on their site that says, hey, I'd like to speak to an agent. So they can always check that box, and that's a lead that they can also generate and sell or provide, depending on who they are. You've got all kinds of places all over the internet that pop up and say, when you're doing any search for real estate, hey, want to learn more about this neighborhood? Or would you like a report on the housing in this area? And they go and they fill that information out. Well, what they do is they take that and they sell that off as a lead too. And so you've got leads being generated everywhere, regardless of whether people realize they're generating a lead or not. In addition to that, we also live in a world where people also have an attention span about that long. So what'll happen is they're out there doing their search and they're doing their work on the internet, they find a property they like, and they finally decide to fill out the form and say, I'd like to talk to somebody. And then they continue searching. And as they do that, they'll go on to another couple pages and find something else they like. And they'll fill out the form again. And then they'll go to another site and see something else they like, and they'll fill out the form again. And then they'll land on something that pops up and says, hey, here's a great economics report in this neighborhood. And they fill out that form. And before anybody gets back to them, they've filled out several different forms in several different places, not realizing that really one was plenty. And that generates different leads. We get calls all the time from agents that are purchasing leads directly from us, saying, well, you know, half the leads you're sending me, I'm competing with other agents because when I call them, somebody else has already called them. They got to them before I did. Well, it's not that we're sharing those leads, because when you buy leads, if you're buying the lead itself, it's sold to one person. The problem is that one person put their information in more than one place, and it got sold to different agents. Other people did that, we didn't. And so regardless of where you're getting your leads from, you're almost always guaranteed that there's going to be other agents calling. So some of what we're going to talk about today isn't only the platform itself and how those leads get to you, but also what you can do to make sure that once you're connected, they convert and they stay with you. So we're going to talk a little about that too. Now, when it comes to all these leads out here, here's the biggest challenge: speed. Your ability to convert drops by 80% if you wait 10 minutes to call them versus 5. You can increase your probability of connection by almost 400% if you can get to them in the first minute. Problem is, if you're buying leads, and you're buying a lot of leads, not all the leads are good, and you can't always drop everything within a minute and answer every single lead that comes rolling in. We also know that about 78%, almost 80% of customers are going to work with the first agent that connects with them. So that's why we talk about speed being absolutely critical. Now, when we interviewed some agents, we also found one of the other problems is half the agents that we surveyed said that they couldn't get a hold of half the leads they were trying to reach out to anyway. Now, I think part of that is the timing we're talking about, because if you wait, let's say you're out driving, doing some work, you run back to your office and you're calling them 10, 15 minutes later. A lot of times they were looking at something at work, they were doing something on their phone, they may have been doing a little research at home, but they sent that lead in, but then they had to go do something with the kids, or they had to go get groceries, they had to go do something else. And so 15 minutes later, the phone's ringing, and what do we all do if it's not a number we recognize? Most of us that aren't in a business trying to get people to call us. Typically, it's, let it go to voicemail. I'll check it later, I'll call back later. And then by the time they get around to calling back, again, they're not in that same frame of mind. They're off doing other stuff, and they hear the voicemail, and they go, oh, yeah, I remember that. That's right, I asked for some help on that. Well, I'll get back to it later. And they don't. Now, the thing is, when we did a little more surveying on this when it comes to agents, typically agents will reach out about 1.5 times before they give up on a lead. I'm not quite sure what a half time really constitutes, but usually it's a phone call, maybe a text, a couple messages, maybe an email, and if you don't hear back, then it's like, I got other things to do. They probably found somebody else. I'm off doing other stuff. And we know to get a response, if you're not catching them in that 1 to 5 minute time frame, it's usually going to take between 6 and 9 calls. Most of our call centers say it's closer to 10 to 12 times that you have to continually reach out to them before either A, your number comes up enough times that they recognize it and go, okay, well, this must be something, and they'll actually answer the phone, or they just figure you're not going to stop calling until they actually answer the phone. Either way, they'll finally usually answer at about that time. But again, if they've already connected with somebody else that's already providing value, the lead's gone anyway. So with all this going on, that's one of the reasons that we kind of got on board with OpCity. Realtor.com, we actually purchased them about 5 years ago now. We were actually going to build our own model to do the same thing, and we started looking at the cost and difficulty in building the AI and everything that happens on the back end, which we'll talk about here in a moment. They already had a couple of years head start on it. They were the first ones in the industry to start this. And so we said, it's a little easier. We're just going to get these guys that are already doing it. And so we brought them in, and they're part of us now. And I think, in all honesty, personally, I thought this was a fantastic model anyway, because you're not paying up front for leads. You pay on the back end after it closes. So nobody makes money off of anything until the deal goes through, which is a win-win for everybody. The whole thing, this whole process, you're going to hear me say it several times, it is a performance-based system. So the better you perform, the more leads you get, and the better leads you get. It is AI in the background kind of doing this. And the whole system is designed to hopefully bring people to you that are ready to go forward and do business. It's not a lead gen where you're going to get somebody and then incubate them for 6 months or a year or whatever. These are hopefully people, we're trying to screen them and make sure that they're ready to do business now or in the short term, and that you can actually focus on what you do best, which is helping people find homes and closing deals, rather than incubating and babysitting and hand-holding. So that's the whole idea. So far, we're about 5 times the industry average for conversions. I know, talking to Scott quite a bit, his team and you guys are actually doing a little bit better than that. In fact, almost double that. So we're going to hopefully keep notching that up. So if you're not familiar with how the system works, there's actually 2 different things taking place with your version. We have the Ready Connect or Opcity platform, which is where all the leads process through. Now the process of the lead going through this system and getting to you is the same regardless of where your leads come from. But they come from 2 different places. And so where they come from and what happens with them can be slightly different. So first of all, we have what are known as our core lead system, which is the platform leads. And these leads are basically come available on the platform to any agents in this market that are on Opcity. Then you have a different product that actually Scott has purchased, which is called Market VIP, which basically means you're getting select top tier leads from a different source, straight through from us, and they come straight through a different channel. You'll recognize those because when the lead comes in, you get the alert, there'll be a little gold badge next to it that says VIP. Those are all Market VIP leads. Those leads are a little different because they're your leads. They stay internal to your brokerage. They don't go anywhere else. And every once in a while, if you ever have your settings set up for maybe a certain dollar range or property type or whatever settings you may have set in there for certain areas, every now and then you are going to get leads that you've filtered out in your settings. And you're going to say, well, why am I getting this lead? Because it's not, this should not be coming to me. That's usually because that is a Market VIP lead that has to come through the system and come to you because it's part of your Market VIP lead system. And we don't just send it out. If there's not another agent who matches that lead exactly, then we're going to find the next closest match. So there are going to be some times where you're going to get that. And we're going to talk more about that. Having your settings opened up to more opportunities anyway is actually a better thing because if you decide that you need to move that lead to somebody else, we have the means to do that as well, and it doesn't go against you. But I will tell you in all the years that I've been training this, some of the best successes and most financially rewarding sales that I've heard about were usually from people that had won this lead that other agents had passed on. And I'll tell you a little bit about that later because there's a lot available out there. It just, sometimes the way it makes it through the system is kind of funky, but that'll make sense in a little bit. So when it comes to the core leads, these are the ones that everybody has access to. First of all, our company is the largest buyer of leads in the nation. So the leads that are coming in are not just Realtor.com leads. We are buying from some of the top tier sellers of leads throughout the country. And so we bring in about 50 to 60,000 leads a month. And those leads, in addition to leads coming off of Realtor.com, are all pulled. Those are what go into the core, which is the network, where anybody who's on the Opcity platform, they have access to them. And you're competing against those other agents for those leads when they come in. Now, the key is there's AI that is learning how you work and how well you work. And I'm going to talk more in a minute about the types of things you want to do to kind of keep the AI happy and rank higher. Because since you guys are getting those VIP leads, those Market VIP leads only come in and you're only competing with people within your brokerage. So you have more opportunity to teach AI how good you are, move more deals through the system, respond faster, all the things that AI is trying to learn about you to move you up in the system, so that when you're competing for those other leads that are out there, I believe you call them bonus leads, when you're competing for those, you already have an edge over all the other agents out there because you have more opportunities than they do to build your reputation in the system. It's a performance-based system, so that AI is learning about you from day one, okay? So what happens is all these leads come in. Now, regardless of whether they're coming in through those other channels for the bonus leads or they're coming through Market VIP, they come into our call center and they get screened. And I'm going to talk specifically about what types of things we're looking for in just a moment. We try and screen out all the fluff. We know that on average about 7 out of 10 leads, initial leads when they first come in, are garbage. They're looky-loos. They're just kind of, they haven't decided yet. They're not really focused yet. And they haven't gotten to that point. When they do, though, we're going to process them and we're going to keep in touch with them and try and move them through. Once we find those motivated buyers and sellers, that's when you're going to get the little ding on your phone. And then we're going to get them out to you and hopefully provide you with tools and training to make sure that you can close those deals and keep the process going. So when the lead comes in, we were talking speed to lead and how critical it is. Our response time is about 10 seconds. So from the minute they fill in that little form and click, within 10 seconds, they're usually getting a phone call. Their phone's ringing. So they're still right in front of what they're doing. They're still in that buying frame of mind. Nobody else hopefully has had a chance to get to them yet. And that's where our process starts. We're doing this from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. local time, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And then 8 to 9 is, because we're making outbound phone calls, that's kind of governed by the federal government. We're not allowed to call after 9 p.m. So what happens is any maybe late shifters, third shifters that might be doing their research at night, they're going to get a text and an email as soon as the lead comes in, letting them know it's after hours. We can't call you right now, but we're going to have somebody call you first thing in the morning. So if you're an office person in the morning, that's a really good time to have your OpCity app turned on, because that's when we're connecting with people that maybe have come in the night before. Now, the information that we're collecting, first of all, that's OpCity Olivia, or actually ReadyConnect Olivia. We got to come up with a better name for it, though, because it's not as catchy as OpCity Olivia was. But in any case, this is actually one of our call center people. That is our call center in Austin, Texas. That's where all the calls originate from. And as they come in and the types of information we're asking for, now remember, before I mentioned, not every lead that comes in is coming off of a portal like ours where they're looking at a particular property, so we have all the information on the property and their pricing and everything else. It may have come through those other leads that we were talking about that come through other sources. So we're going to go through and say, what are your property preferences? We're trying to build out this profile on them. What kind of price range, time to buy and sell. We do ask for a credit level, that they know what their credit score is about. We're not doing any pre-qualification or anything like that. We're just kind of trying to figure out if they know kind of where they're at in that process. And then we're also going to ask them about the availability for seeing a property. We know that it's absolutely critical to get from that first phone call to that first face-to-face meeting. And so we're actually trying to plant that in their mind right from the beginning. We're going to introduce you to the agent, get your questions answered, and they're going to want to set a meeting with you and be able to take you through the process. So all that stuff is going on. So we've got Olivia, and we get connected with Charlie. And from the moment that call initiates, our AI is sitting in the background watching. And as Olivia is up there entering the information in and we're building the profile, the AI is starting to build a group of agents. First things it looks for is pretty basic. It looks for the area, what area is Consumer Charlie working in and what agents are on the platform in that area. Next, it's going to be looking for things like your settings. What kind of price range? Is it within a certain zone? Is it the type of property you're working with? All those types of things. Then, once it kind of gets to the agents that are available that meet the criteria of what Charlie's looking for, then it starts to create what's known as a dispatch order. This is where it gets interesting. Have you all been on the platform for a while and play with it? Okay. Have you ever had, and this is usually, I already know the answer, but I like to ask anyway. Have you ever been sitting there in your office and the alarm goes off and you hit that button like 2 seconds after it goes off and somebody else already went? Yeah. That's usually the most frustrating thing for everybody, and it's usually the question that I get asked. I've been doing this for 6 years now with this product, and that's usually the top question to this day, whether it's Market VIP or not, is why is it doing this? It's because when the system's building this, now I'm not sure, with Market VIP, do you have it set so when a lead comes in, it goes to everybody at the same time? Okay. So there's, again, we're talking two different kind of things happening. So in the system, it does what's known as a dispatch order for the other leads, not the ones that are coming through Market VIP. But this is what I was talking about. Having access to more leads in Market VIP allows you to build a better reputation with AI, and this is why. What happens is it builds this dispatch order based on your behavior and what it's learned about you. And what it does is it sends out the alerts, and as it sends out those alerts, the first agent gets it exclusively. And they have it for about 5 to 10 seconds. Then it adds a second agent. And about 5 to 10 seconds later, a third agent. and so on. And it continues to do that through all of the agents. So having a high dispatch position is good. 78%, we talked about this earlier, almost 80% of those people are going to work with the first person they connect with. That's why getting in front of them is important. And going back to what I talked about earlier too, you're not going to be the only one calling them. So the sooner you can go from being a voice on a phone to a face and a person they know, the more likely they are to continue working with you. Okay, so let's talk about our consumer experience. So they've been out there, and we talked about this a little bit before. You know, most people will start their search about 2 weeks ahead of time when they're actively planning on talking to somebody, because again, they want to do their research. If you're going to go buy a car, usually you don't head straight for the dealership and talk to the sales guy first. You want to get some information on your own first. And so they do their research. And they're out there looking, and they're dreaming, and they're looking at the cool pools, and they're usually looking at houses that are just ever so slightly outside of their buying range to look at all the cool stuff that they really want, but maybe not quite what they can afford right now, especially with interest rates. But eventually something strikes them. Something pushes them over the threshold of being a looky-loo to, hey, I want to raise my hand. Somebody call me. I have questions. I actively want to start engaging with somebody and move forward. And so when they do that, they click the little form on whatever website they happen to be on or on their phone, however it might be, and 10 seconds later, they're getting a call from us. And they're excited, and they're ready to get their questions answered and get more information, and they kind of hit a speed bump. And that speed bump is our qualification process, or our questions. And that's usually about 4 to 5 minutes. So they're all excited about doing stuff, and they kind of hit this speed bump, and now they have to answer all these questions. So their kind of excitement level kind of starts to come down a little bit. And we hit this kind of, please just get me to what I want to do. So we're going to talk about some hurdles. These are the kind of pain points that we know work across the board with no matter who you're talking to. Some things that may come up in conversation, or might. In fact, if you can get to them and answer this pain point or address it before they have to say something, subconsciously that kind of adds to value very, very quickly, because it kind of puts to rest some things that may be going on in the back of their head that some people won't even come out and say. For starters, they're already been on hold for 4 minutes because they've been talking about all this stuff, and depending on how long it took everybody to click and respond and everything else, they were excited and they've been kind of put on hold. So one of the things we're going to talk about is the easiest way to overcome that is as soon as you start talking to them, focus right back on what got them excited in the first place. If there was a property, start talking about that property. Hey, it's great to meet you. You know, I'm looking at the property that you had sent in. This is a beautiful home. It's got this, it's got that. That also helps lend a few other things that we're going to talk about here as well. One of them has to do with first-timers. They don't totally understand what the agent's role is in the process. A lot of times, if you still ask a lot of people that have not gone through the process of buying or selling a home, to them, the agent's job is to handle contracts, paperwork, maybe negotiate a little here and there. They don't fully understand what you bring to the table. So being ready to educate them quickly on the fact that you're there to support them, you're there to represent them, you're there to educate them and guide them through the process, to answer all their questions, hopefully put them at ease. These are all things that are going to help you convert them faster. You're bringing value to the table. And they need to understand I'm not just here to fill out contracts and send you properties. Okay? Hesitation around phone scams. I got 3 this morning. Everybody's calling. Remember, they clicked a form on the internet, and 10 seconds later, somebody from somewhere else is calling them. And then they're getting handed off to a third or a second person. So a lot of people are very wary about that. In fact, sometimes you may get a lead that comes through that's got very little information on there. In fact, one of the fields that is, I would say, 20-30% of the time maybe, last I heard, that's left blank is their budget, because people won't talk about money with somebody they just talked to on the phone. So in your settings, if you haven't done so already, I highly recommend that you turn on unknown budgets. A lot of agents turn that off because they assume that these are people that don't have any money. That's why they don't want to talk about it. And so they figure, well, I'm just going to filter the low-end people out by doing that. Well, we have equally as many people that are at the other end of the scale that have a whole lot of money. They don't want to talk to the first person that calls them off the internet either about their financial situation. So again, talking's free. Find out what they're really looking for and find out what their ideas are and connect there and find out from there. But again, immediately going back to what got them excited, talking about your knowledge of the area, where the home is located, the schools in the area, that helps them understand very quickly. You're local, you are somebody that's there to help them, you're not just somebody somewhere else that's making stuff up as you go. And then last but not least, the fourth one, how many of you guys have ever gotten a lead and by the time you call them, they say, oh, I'm actually already talking to an agent, or I already have an agent, is actually the more popular answer. So this was a question, this comes up very frequently. In fact, we used to, early on, like 4 or 5 years ago, one of the things I used to get asked, probably second only to the whole thing about, when I go to claim, somebody beats me to it. Why are you sending me leads? That the first thing they say when I talk to them is they tell me they're already working with an agent. Isn't that one of the questions you guys ask in your screening process? Yes, it is. So why are they getting to me? Well, the consumers are getting smarter. We actually did a poll on this to find out. And when we talked to the consumers, we found out that probably about 50% of the time, they don't actually have an agent. They have just learned through videos and Lord knows what else, that if you tell an agent that you already have an agent, you're not going to try and sell them on why they should work with you, because our ethics don't permit that. So they figure, I just want to talk to somebody who's a professional that can give me information, but I don't want to get sold. And if you think about it, think about other things that we do. It's the same reason we don't go to the car dealership first. We don't really want to be sold either. We want the information, but we want to kind of make our own decisions first. And there are still a large amount of people out there that think that because we are part of the sales process, that agents are salespeople. And then as soon as I talk to them, if they think I don't have an agent, they're going to try and sell me and push me into being their customer. I just want to get some questions answered. So I can tell you what our top closing agents do is really simple. They provide the service. I'm going to answer their questions. I'm going to provide the best service I can. And maybe as I wrap up the call, say, you know what, I'm happy to give you all the information, but I would take this back to your agent and then go from there. So we're not trying to say, start cherry picking other people's customers by any stretch. But one of two things. One, if they don't really have an agent, it's probably going to come out once they realize you're not going to try and pressure sell them. Number two, if they do have an agent, you have to ask yourself, why are they out in the internet shopping on the internet and then reaching out to other agents if they have their own? Probably because they're not getting great service. So again, we're not trying to steal their business, but just by providing service when the questions are answered, and you answer their questions and go on your way. From the brokers that we've talked to, about 40% say that they'll get a call back within usually a week or two. And either they're calling back saying, I don't really have an agent, or I like the service you provided me better, so I fired that agent and I'd like you to be my agent now. Talking's free. So provide the service, at least answer their questions, and then send them on their way, and they can make their decisions after that. But the other thing too, and we're going to talk more about this later, even if it turns out to be something that doesn't work for them, you're trying to build value, and you never know who they know. Even if they don't continue doing something with you, they may tell some friends, I was talking to this other agent, and if I weren't already tied up with this one, I'd use that one. Well, that other one may be the one calling you next week. So, never hurts. Okay, when you get the call, a couple things to keep in mind. Try and be in a place where you can take the call. That's really an important one. Out driving, showing, getting ready to meet other customers, things like that, not a great time. Use the do not disturb and the snooze that's built into there. It's very easy to use. If you're not familiar with it, if you go to settings, you'll see snooze and do not disturb. Do not disturb sets specific hours of the day when it automatically turns the app off for you. When you come into meetings or trainings, you can set snooze, set it for an hour, anywhere from an hour to a week if you're on vacation. And it'll automatically alert the system that you're not receiving any alerts at that time. Doesn't count against you. In fact, the system likes that because that way it's not trying to reach out to you while it's got somebody on hold. So that takes you kind of out of that category for the short time. The nice thing about snooze is at the end of that hour or two that you set it for, it automatically turns itself back on. But it's a great thing to do. One of the reasons we say try to make sure you're somewhere where you can take it is because even if you get the lead, let's say you're sitting in your car and you're waiting to meet some customers, maybe to do a showing, you're there a few minutes early, your phone goes off, you grab it, and you win the lead. And you pick up the phone and you start talking to them, and here comes your other customers. Well, great, let me tell you what, I'm at a showing, let me call you back in a half an hour when I'm back at the office. Seems simple enough, except there's probably 2 or 3 or more agents that are going to call them before you get back to your office. And chances are, by the time you get back to your office, they're already gone. Because somebody else could take care of them right now. Because that's the world we live in. Okay, so you want to be that person providing that value and doing it right now. All right, another great thing is if you can, try and have your laptop or your computer open on the MLS to start pulling information on the property they're looking for. Because that's all part of that first alert that you're going to get when it comes through. So once you claim it, it tells you you've won it, it's automatically going to create that entire profile in there. So you can see what they're looking for, where they're looking for it. You can tap it on your phone and bring it right up. Grab the MLS number and pull it up on your screen. So when the call comes in, like we were talking about before, hey, this is a great property. Nice to meet you. Let's talk more about this. It's got a beautiful pool. Let me try and find some more additional information on that. And there's another key question you can ask. We'll talk about in a few minutes. But again, refocus on the property, and having all those tools in front of you is definitely a great way to do it. Then, of course, get in front of them. Very, very, very important. The sooner you can get in front of them, the sooner you can make that first impression. And then, of course, the other thing you want to confirm beyond their email address and phone number at the end of the call is their preferred communication method. This is another key one. Not only confirm it, but note it on their file and use it. I've done training sessions where I've had people in the class say, well, you know, I'm a little more old school. I like to talk on the phone. I want to talk to them directly. Oh, well, it's not about you. Because I know for me, for example, a lot of times I get asked that question on different business things that I'm tied up with, and I'll usually put text me because I'm teaching classes or I'm in meetings. Maybe I can answer you, you know, if I'm in a meeting, I can answer a text, but I can't take a phone call. And yet, lo and behold, here comes the phone calls. It's like, nope, not going to take the call, not going to take the call. If you want me, text me. I told you that. So make sure when you're doing this, note it so you remember what it is. Now, if you have to talk to them on the phone and they're like texting, then text them, hey, I need to talk to you real quick. When's a good time we can connect? And they'll tell you, okay, we can set up a time for a call. So it's convenient for them. But that way, at least they feel like they're being heard again, which is really what Paul's back to. Okay, so what about the times that you get those wonderful customers, have this wonderful property, their heart is set, and the thing is already sold, or at least it's under contract? Not that that ever happens. It doesn't happen usually on Realtor.com ones, I can tell you that much. Only because we're direct connected with all the MLSs. Yes, a shameless plug. We update your listing information every 9 minutes. So as long as you keep that information up to date, it's updated on our site within 10 minutes. Our competitors can't do that. Which is why sometimes you're going to get these calls, because sometimes those leads come through too. But it's okay, because again, 90% of these people aren't going to buy the property that they called you about in the first place anyway. So the key is, what happens when you give them that answer as soon as you get connected with Op City Olivia? Hi, oh, this house? No, I'm sorry, it's actually already been sold. Can I help you with something else? What do you think their answer usually is? 9 times out of 10, nope. Even if there's other stuff they want to look at. Most of the time they're going to do this because, again, think about their process. They've been searching and looking at stuff for weeks. They finally found something they wanted. They raised their hand. They called in, or they got the call. And they got excited. Somebody called them right away. Fantastic. Now they're stuck on the phone talking to them for 5 minutes about other stuff. They're not getting their questions answered. They finally get handed off to the first person that can answer their questions. Boom. Nope. Sorry. You're out of luck. Just took all the wind out of their sails. Completely. We actually have, we record the calls obviously when our rep is online because we use that for training purposes. And then of course when they drop off, that doesn't continue. But we actually we go back and review them every so often because we're constantly adapting scripts to make sure that we're getting the information we need, but we're not keeping them on too long, and we try and dial it in continuously. There are calls where you can actually hear, before Op City Olivia even has a chance to completely get off the line, the agent on the other end saying, oh, I'm sorry, that's under contract. I can't show you that one. Is there anything else I can help you with? It's like, stop doing that. You just wasted the lead. Bye-bye. This is a far better thing to do. And in my opinion, this question really is the best question you can ask every lead you connect with, hands down. Because number one, you're refocusing everything right back on what got them excited in the first place. And you're going to give them the chance to tell you all about what they want, why they want it, where they want it, and everything else, which is going to help you immensely as you're trying to guide them through the process. So instead of, no, you can't have this, oh, this is a beautiful home. I just pulled it up. I'm pulling it up on the MLS right now so I can give you better information. While I'm doing that, tell me, what attracted you to this property in the first place? Let them talk. And while they're talking, that also gives you ammunition to go in and search for other properties that match what they're telling you. So that way, either way, the answer is no. Now, if it's under contract, are they accepting backup offers? at least you may be able to slide in that way. But if that's not an option, then at least being able to go back to them, in addition to having to say, no, this one's not available. However, can't see this one, but based on what you just told me, I've got a list of other properties that we can go take a look at. Would you like to meet tomorrow? So you've been able to kind of soften the blow a little bit, give them other options. Coming to the table with a solution rather than just a no is always a better thing. And that helps you get to that point of getting in front of them for that first face-to-face meeting. And it all kind of flows very nicely. All the stuff that you see in quotes like this, these are our top 5% producers. These are all their quotes, exactly what they use. Another one is, we're in a seller's market. Some properties move within days. I'm glad we connected because there's several things that haven't come on the market yet, but I can certainly set up a showing as soon as they're available. This is another good one. Actually, you can use this with the last one because one of the other questions that you also want to answer for them is, why do I need an agent? Especially all our millennials nowadays, they think everything's on here. Why do I need a real estate agent other than the contract stuff? Because I can access everything on here. Well, no, and that's not necessarily the truth. We have access to more information. A lot of times we know other agents in the place may be getting listings that are coming in that might fit exactly what you're looking for. And so as soon as that hits the MLS, we can actually set up showings and go see it. So you're kind of answering that question for them without having to come right out and say it. I have access to more information than you do, so working with me is a good thing. Adding more value. Question fatigue. The thing to remember, above all else, is on this first call, there's only 3 things that you want to do, and only 3. Answer their questions, build rapport and value, and you do that by differentiating yourself and hopefully providing extra information, and schedule that meeting. And if it's not the next meeting, then it's the next call to hopefully schedule the meeting. Those are the main things you want to try and do. The rest of it you want to save for face-to-face. We don't recommend getting into it on pre-qualifications. And I know you have a wonderful team and a whole process that is built in that's going to help with that, which I think is phenomenal. It's one of the first I've heard that's set up like this. I think it's a fantastic idea. It really is. I'm going to let you speak to that later because I don't want to do it out of order. But the whole idea is to build that rapport on that call, set yourself apart. And we'll talk about the pre-qualifications later. Now, when you get to that point, you know, it's easy. If they ask you about it, then that's a different story. Great, I've got a great team that can help you with this. Mind if I help you walk you through the process? Or how about I connect you with the people on my team and let them take you through this process? You're never going to get anybody upset because you offered a higher level of service than they needed. If you talk about it and you say, you know, can I walk you through the process? And they say, oh, no, we bought like 5 or 6 homes. We're good. Great. Then I'll get you with, you know, people on my team and they'll get you all set up and get this taken care of. So that's not an issue. Obviously, you know, we'd hate to get you set up in a home, have you love it, and then we have to wait a couple days for pre-qualifications to go through and somebody else snatches it up, especially in this market. So the focus mainly is to try and hopefully get to that first meeting first. Now, what if the inevitable happens every once in a while? You're going through the process, and when you finally get to that process, you hit a roadblock, and they can't get qualified. They're going to have to go get something somewhere. That's okay, because there is a silver lining to this, and that is it's not always about just the person you're dealing with. It's all the people they know. We're a referral business. So this is one of those areas, and there's actually another setting in here that I will talk about briefly, and that is leases. Most agents hate leases. Nobody wants to do leases. There's no money in leases. Absolutely true. I don't say turn on leases for the purpose of making money.
They don't exist in Mississippi on the MLS.
Oh, they don't?
Yeah, but once they get licensed in Louisiana, it's good for that because they're all getting dual license.
Okay. So the lease thing is, we call it a loss. I refer to it as a loss leader, just like the underpriced stuff at the store. That's really what it is. It's an underpriced thing that hopefully gets you something else. And there's a couple reasons that we recommend doing it. Number one, you've got somebody like we just talked about. They went through the process. They can't get financing now. Great. Let me help you find something else. Move them into a lease. Again, not going to make any money off it, but you're still nurturing that relationship. Now, sometimes that person's going to go into that lease and they're ready to buy 6 months or a year from now. Now that they've rebuilt their credit or rebuilt whatever they had to fix. Well, if you've got them in your pipeline and you've been using your CRM to stay in touch with them on a regular basis, you're keeping your pipeline down the road. They may not be a customer today. It doesn't mean they can't be a customer next year. Why throw that away? Number two, if it's a fresh lease or if somebody, a fresh lead that came in through leases, our top producers usually all run with leases turned on, depending on their workload. Now, obviously, if you are really, really busy, I can tell you turning on leases will definitely increase the number of leads you get, because there's a lot of people, especially if it's not on the MLS where they can find it out there, they'll reach out to an agent and say, do you know anybody that's got rentals or leases or, where I can get in somewhere, other than going to apartments.com. That's another animal. But in any case, what our top producers have found out is roughly 35 to 40% of those people can be converted into a first-time buyer, because they didn't realize. Now it's a little more difficult now, but prior to all the rate hikes, and hopefully they'll start working their way back down, it was more economical, and actually it may still be with the way leases have gone up, to buy a house than it is to try and rent one. So they could actually convert them. It's just that they hadn't really thought about it, because they thought, I've always leased, I think I'll keep leasing. And then somebody comes along and says, well, you can save $200 or $300 a month if you stopped leasing and actually looked at buying, especially if it's, fits in their budget. So they may turn into a sale immediately anyway. And then the other part of that is, again, it's not just about that person. This person, if they have a great experience with you, is going to tell other people. Even though it may not have done anything wonderful for you in your pocketbook right now, you never know who they know. And the other thing, last but not least, is in our system, that AI that's doing all this stuff in the background and is learning about you as you're closing deals. A closed lease and a closed sale, it doesn't know the difference between the two. A close is a close is a close. And it is the most heavily weighted thing you can do on the platform. Because if you can show you can close deals, it's going to send you more deals to close. Because the whole point of it is closing deals. So that's another great way to kind of boost your standing in that dispatch order. Also makes your score go up, but we already talked about that. But that's something else you can do. Now, my recommendation, obviously, if you're busy and you're dealing with live sales, leave leases turned off. But there are certain times of the year we see a natural ebb and flow of lease flow through even our system, and it kind of tends to flow the same as what you're seeing with your office, which is why we usually get calls when everybody's business slows down. They call us saying, I need more leads to kind of fill in where I don't have people walking in my office. The problem is they're not walking in ours either. It's just the way the industry goes. Usually the worst time of year is August to September when everybody's going back to school. Things slow down quite a bit, and they ramp back up right before the holidays, drop off again, and then pick back up this time of year. So it just kind of happens that way. Now, I will tell you, this kind of goes back to talking to everybody and knowing or providing the best service you can in hopes that they're going to introduce you to somebody else. You heard the story earlier. This is my favorite one. I have tons of them, but this is my favorite. And in interest of time, I'll just tell you the one. I had this training that I was doing down in Fort Lauderdale. And an agent had moved down there and just gotten on the OpCity system because her previous broker didn't have it. And she was, trying to follow up on new leads, just getting started. And I think she'd been on it for a few months at that point. And this young couple came up in her thing. And as she was talking to him, she had found out that 5 agents had passed them over. They basically said, no, I'm not gonna work with you. Because it was a young couple. They had not gotten pre-qualified. They were looking for something in about the $200,000 range in Fort Lauderdale. Well, if you know anything about Fort Lauderdale or southern Florida, you're not touching anything for $200,000, except maybe a single boat slip for a month. Very expensive area. Well, she had just found out she was pregnant, and he had a new job, which doesn't help financing a whole lot. So these other agents had basically said, I don't have time. No, I can't help you. You're not qualified. You're not this. You're not that. And you're not even looking in the right price range for where we're at. And she said, I'm going to start working. So she started working with them. First of all, she helped educate them on where they're going to have to probably move to be in that target range, which was way inland. They wound up searching about 45 minutes to an hour inland and found a house. It was in the 230s, 240s, I think, somewhere in that range. And it was just below 250s where they ended up closing. But they went through the process. They finally started working with her team and lenders and trying to find a way to get them qualified. They were trying to do it on their own. They didn't want to go ask mom and dad for help or any of that stuff. And so they started going through this process and found that they couldn't get qualified themselves. So they reached out to mom and dad. This is her mom and dad. Turns out mom and dad are loaded, like capital L. and big dollar signs. And they said, sure, we'd love to help out. So they stepped in, helped out, got them going, got them on their feet, they closed the deal. And like I said, it was just under 250, 240 somewhere. And it was within 45 minutes, so he'd commute to his new job. They had their house, life was good. So she helped these people get where they needed to go, and she closed a deal, and it was nice, and 5 agents passed that up because they didn't think anything could come of it. That alone, I think, has made it worth it. About a week or two after they were kind of getting things settled, she gets a phone call. It's Mom and Dad. Since grandbaby's on the way, they would love to have a house near there so they could visit the grandbabies. So she wound up closing about a $2.5 million beach house for Mom and Dad. 5 agents passed that up too. So it's not always about the person standing in front of you. It's a relationship business. Talking's free. Help everybody, and you never know what's going to land in your lap. And that is financially the most rewarding end result that I've heard in all the stories that I've heard, but it's not the first one. I've heard so many of people were like, oh, I had this customer and these agents passed on it and these agents passed on it, and they wound up, this happened or that happened. It wound up being a really good deal, and they wound up, doing really good, but they also wound up helping these people. And talking, like I said, talking's free. You never know what's going to come of it. Never know. All right, before you end the call, a couple things you want to do. First of all, you want to set the stage for what's going to happen next. Again, a lot of people don't know what the process is, so making sure that they know what to expect and when to expect it and all that kind of good stuff, kind of let them know what they can expect down the road. Share your V card. So if you're not familiar with that term, that is a virtual business card. And I will tell you, the easiest way to do that is go into your phone, create a contact for yourself, and put in all of your phone numbers, all your email addresses, all the information you want to share. There's a notes section where you can add links. I highly recommend, hopefully you have your Realtor.com profile filled out, and hopefully your LinkedIn, and if you have a broker profile, put links to all of those, all part of that contact. And that way when you end that first phone call, go into that contact, send it to them. They receive it all in one time, and it automatically goes right into their contacts. So now you're not trying to send them a picture of a business card where they have to type the numbers themselves, or they're trying to take it out of a thing in your email or try to do it. It automatically flows. You send it to them in a text, they get it, they grab it, it dumps everything into their contacts automatically. It's the easiest way to pass the information. And the more information that you pass them, the better it is. We'll talk more about that here in just a second. You'll see why. Again, you want to confirm their communication preference and preferably use it. And then set the time, the expectation of when your next outreach is going to be. So there are times where some MLSs have portals, or sometimes there's other services that are available where I hear agents say, well, yeah, I usually just, we meet with them, we get this stuff set, and then I give them access to this portal where they can do their own searches. I just say, just give me a call as soon as, if you find something, just give me a call, let me know, I'll set up and go look at it. Sounds easy enough, but what you really just kind of said to them is, I'm busy and you don't really know what you want yet, call me when you figure it out. That's kind of subconsciously what you just told them. So it should never be a discussion like that. It should be, I'm going to provide this information to you. I'm going to call you at this point. If you see something in the meantime, by all means, text me, call me, let me know. But if not, I'm going to call you 2 days from now. I'm going to find out where you're at, and maybe we'll get together for coffee or something and talk more, or whatever that might be. But make sure if you're not scheduling that face-to-face meeting, you're at least scheduling the next time you're going to talk to them and provide them more information in detail. Oops, other way. All right, some post-call value adds. Obviously, if they're looking at a specific property or properties or an area, whatever you can provide to them, the more the better. Whether it's out of the MLS, search results, planos, disclosures, floor plans, if you have brochures or things that you have within your brokerage about the neighborhoods or different subdivisions that might be interesting, anything you can provide to them, send it out. Meetings, showing confirmations, locations, all that kind of stuff. If you are going to meet somewhere, send them a link to the location. Yeah, everybody can pull it up on their phone in Google Maps. But the fact that they don't have to go find it and plug in all the numbers, they can just tap a link. It's just one more step to make things easier. Lower that threshold. The easier it is for everybody to do everything, the easier it is for them to say yes. Business card, we talked about that. The other reason that we think this is a great thing to do is actually 2 of these things. And that is your biography and testimonials. This is why you want to keep those links in that business card. Let them go do research. they're going to look you up anyway. Make it easy for them. Because the other thing you want to keep in mind is the more time that they spend learning about you and that they invest in you, the more likely they are to work with you. So paint the pathway to them. Just provide it to them. And that's why the other thing you want to be careful of, we actually teach this. We have a whole different class on building profiles for Google, and so you can use SEO and all that kind of good stuff. You want all those profiles. Just one thing, make sure you don't use the same bio in every single profile. Don't copy and paste. A lot of agents do that. Two things happen. Number one, that consumer is always going to go look at whether they Google you or they use what you send them. They're always going to go look at more than one. Give them something new to learn about you in each location, because that encourages them to keep looking and spend more time doing it. Number two, they're going to see that you just copy and pasted, and that's not what they're looking for. The other thing is Google also sees it, and it will actually damage your SEO if everything's the same, because it knows its customers, Google knows its customers, don't want the same thing over and over again, and that will actually hurt your SEO. So you want to make sure they're seeing fresh information everywhere they go to learn about you. Okay, some other goodies, things like first-time buyer's guides. If you have these are always great to send. If you don't, we actually have some. I've got some websites I'll show you here. They're on Realtor.com site. We actually have white-papered buyer's guides that you can slap your logo and information on. They don't have Realtor.com stuff on them. They're designed by our marketing team that look really nice. They're really slick, and all you do is download them, and they're PDFs. You just slap your logos and your information. It looks like this is something you spent time creating. And it takes them through the first time. And we actually have both buyer's and seller's guides that you can do that with. And then we also have other pages that have affordability calculators. If you're working with those lease people, rent versus buy calculators, so they can see what it's going to cost either way, which one works best for them. And then again, make sure you're getting in front of them for that first meeting. Always, in person is going to be the best. Remember, our top producers are usually in front of them within 2 days. That should always be your target, but definitely within the first 2 weeks. If you're not scheduling or you're not going to see a property, have them come by the office or meet them for coffee, somewhere neutral. House or somewhere they're going to show them is always better, but start the relationship somewhere. So what if you're dealing with somebody that's moving into the area? Well, we have these wonderful online versions. Face-to-face is better no matter what, even if it's on one of these doohickeys. And I'm going to show you one of the features in here that I know we were talking this morning. It's not functioning right now. They're going to fix it, though. It's a high priority item. But using any of these free features are great, although I know some of the problems we run into is I'm Android, you're Apple, vice versa. This doesn't work, that doesn't work. Well, you have a video thing right built. It's called Inbox. That's in the OpCity app itself. That when it's working, doesn't matter what phone it's on. Basically, you're going to text them a link. They tap the link, and they pop up on their end, and you pop up on your end. It's really easy. There's no apps to download. There's nothing. It's simple. Works really, really well. So I'll show you that here in a second. But again, 90% is humans. 90% of our communication is visual. It's our mannerisms, the way we speak. It's the way we hold ourselves. So getting from a voice on a phone that, again, you're not going to be the only one, to a face that they recognize and that they can start building a rapport with, even if it's virtual, is better than nothing. So at least get to that phase as quickly as possible. I will say one of the other things that I've gotten from training, almost every single text app that's out there has the ability of doing video. If you want to increase your conversion rates and increase your response rates, send them a video text instead of texting it. There's a very, very, very small group of agents that have started doing that. They usually get about a 90 to 95% response rate. And it could be something as simple, hey, just checking in, we're meeting at 10 a.m. tomorrow, looking forward to it. Well, instead of texting it, just say it. Usually you can, even something that short is faster to record and send than it is to actually type, unless you have really super fast thumbs like my kids do. But it's, again, your personality coming through. They appreciate it, and you'll almost always get a response because they appreciate the fact that you went and did that. So here's what we're talking about, video chat. Again, this is in the OpCity app or the ReadyConnect app. And what you do is you have to go down into settings and turn on something called Inbox. And once you turn on Inbox, there's three little things that are going to pop up. There's a text app, there's the phone, and then there's the little video thing. Now, the phone, if you tap the phone to make a phone call, it just makes it out of your phone. If you send a text, this is something else you need to understand. Because we are sending a text from the app, legally we cannot spoof your phone number and pretend it's coming from your phone. It's actually coming from the server, okay? So when you set up Inbox, it's going to give you a virtual phone number, a second virtual phone number. And in your settings, it'll tell you exactly what that number is. It only belongs to you. When you set up and you send them your vCard, just put it in there as a second cell phone number. Because remember, when they get that vCard and they put you in their contacts, it doesn't matter what the phone number is. It's not going to come up anymore. It's just going to be your name. And it doesn't matter which number they text or which number they call, they're both going to go to your phone. So on your end, doesn't matter. On their end, doesn't matter. A lot of agents get really hung up about the fact, oh, it's another phone number. It's going to confuse them. Not if you're in their contacts. You got to make sure you get in their contacts. And if you send them a vCard, it's automatic. It's a no-brainer at that point. And so as far as this goes, when you're ready, you just tap on your on Pepperpots. That's your individual contact that's in here, your active listing, or not listing, customer. Tap on it. It's going to send them out a little text that says, hey, join me on a video call. They tap the link. You click your little yes, start now, and that opens up the video call. They pop up, you pop up, there you go. It's that simple. The nice thing is, you can also use this, a lot of agents will actually use this, you can tap that and turn it around so you're using the back side. And on this side, I can see her face, but it's filming from the front and I can see what she sees, and I can go through and do a virtual showing. A lot of agents use it for that. It's very, very easy. And then turn it right back around and sit and have a conversation about the house. When you're all done, you just tap the little X, disconnects both sides, and everybody goes their way. It's very simple. And I know we were talking this morning, apparently they're having some problems with it, so little things aren't showing up there. We're making some big changes to all of our apps right now. We're actually trying to merge them into one, so there's not all these different apps for different stuff and different dashboards and things. So over the course of this year, you're going to see a few changes. That's part of what's happening. So that video feature may not be showing up right now, but it's something that should be getting fixed here very quickly. When it pops up, it's not going to pop up with a ding or an alert like it would if you had, Consumer Charlie on the other end and you have to answer, okay? Because we don't want you scrambling for your phone thinking you got leads coming in when it's just this type of alert. But it will pop up on your cover, and if you tap it, it'll take you in, and what it does is it actually will take you into that particular person, and it takes you to their activity page, and these right here, all the ones where you see the other agents' pictures on them, those are agents that have reached out to you saying, hey, I've got a customer with a property that matches some customers you have. If you want to check them out, all the new ones have the blue dots. Anytime there's something you haven't read, it's a little blue dot on it. And if you go in and you just tap on it, it's going to open up information on the property, the quick message that particular agent sent to you, and then as you scroll down, there we go. If you want to, you can go view the property on Realtor.com real quick, so you don't have to go out anywhere and look it up on the MLS. You'll see the customers that you have that we know match. And then if you want to reach out and contact the agent, you can just tap, you can either text or call them right from there. Everything's in one place. That way you're not having to go to other places and do everything. It's all built in. Now, what if you have a situation where, let's say, good old Pepper up there is fairly persnickety. And it's an area where there's a lot of listings starting to come available, but she's very picky. You don't want to constantly be getting these alerts. All you have to do is tap on Pepper, and you'll see now there'll be a little flip switch. You can just flip in there and turn off that particular customer. So you're not going to be getting any more leads from other agents saying, hey, you've got a customer that matches. So you can control that. It's on a customer-by-customer basis because everybody's different. But that's just another feature in there that either you're going to like because it brings you more people, or you're not going to like and you can just turn it off. But why not? And of course, when you're done, you just tap on the little arrow and it takes you back to your dashboard. All right, so this one's worth snapping if you want it. Here's a couple of different things. First of all, we talked about your Realtor.com profile. If you haven't claimed them, I highly recommend doing so. We have a training page, which is just Realtor.com/training. And we have a couple of classes on there. There's one called Build Your Brand, the Power of the Profile. Or if you want to schedule a private training, I'd be happy to do a virtual training for you guys on that one. I think it's probably one of our most popular classes. It's a great class because we're talking about not how to build your Realtor.com profile. We do talk about that a little bit, but it's more about how you take all of the profiles that you have out there, you tie them together, you get Google to recognize the types of things you want Google to see, and it starts boosting your SEO there, and also the types of things you want to do and not do in your different profiles to grab the customers. because some things they like, some things they don't. And so we talk a lot about that on there. Affordability calculators, I'd mentioned that before, as well as rent versus buy. And then, of course, our Ready Connect support. We've got things I had mentioned before. We interview and talk to our top 5%ers quite a bit. We get a lot of scripts from them. Here's what I use. Here's what I say when I get this. Here's what I say when I get that. Best practices, those are all out there. And, of course, we talk about Agent Score Inbox and all the new tools. Whenever they come out, there's usually videos that we have out there for that as well. And then last but not least, if none of that's working for you, we have our partner support team. That's the whole crew out in Austin, Texas. They're there from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time and 7 to 3 on Saturdays. The first one's Monday to Friday, and then on Saturdays. And don't tell them I told you, but if you email on Sundays, all the managers have their laptops, and somebody will usually answer you on Sundays too. So if you have a problem, don't tell them I said that. You have to edit that part out. This number, by the way, if you have any issues, if you have an issue, a question, leads aren't coming through right, or you're expecting them and they're not, leads are coming through, but your phone's not dinging when it's supposed to ding, you want one-on-one coaching, whatever the case may be, that's the number to call. They're happy to help out, because again, the whole process and everything we're trying to build is for you to close deals, plain and simple. All right, with that, ta-da, I'm done. So you guys have any questions about any of the stuff we talked about today? Kind of makes sense a little bit?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am?
I, in my area, am on the waiting list. Do you know how long that lasts until I can get in?
I don't. When we're talking about waitlisting, the reason behind that is because there is a set flow of leads. Generally, I mean, we don't have control over. We generally know the ebb and flow and about what to expect. And the last thing we want is to have, which we found out the hard way, is to have too many agents on the platform and nobody's getting leads, or they're getting one here and one there. And so what it usually comes down to is if a brokerage or agents or whatever, whenever the number comes down, then they'll open it up and bring new agents on. But we have no control over that part of it.
In Hattiesburg, the VFU market, which takes up some of the capacity.
Yes. All right. Any other questions?